afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see whether this remote control really works. The broad spectrum, deep submicron technology, fast communication protocols. Who of you has used Design IP in the past in your designs? Did you ever use it? Are you planning to use it? Okay. So let's look the next 20 minutes or so, we will go to give you a little bit an overview of the Cadence IP group. What are we doing? We will talk about the IP portfolio to hopefully impress you how broad and how deep our design IP portfolio is meanwhile. And we will talk about the Cadence IP advantage, the advantages you have going with the Cadence IP. So I would assume that all of you are aware of Cadence being a tool supplier for the last 25 years already. And over the last, well, let's say nearly 10 years, the IP portion on the left-hand side is slowly but steadily growing. And the center of gravity for today's talk will be about the IP, what we are doing in the IP world. Some of you think, well, Cadence is only very short in IP, or you might not even have heard about it, that we are in IP, but that's not quite true. Even before 2010, we had an IP department. It was the Cadence Design Systems who designed for customers and had contractual agreements to use the design and reuse it in other circuits as well. So, and in 2010, this is when you had the nucleus starting with Denali, with the acquisition of Denali and having the memory controllers and memory models coming up. And later in 2013, this was when we really went broad by acquiring the companies like IP from ST Microsystems, we acquired Tensilica, we acquired Evatronics, Cosmic Circuits for analog designs, and we enhanced our analog design team here in the US as well. And we did not stop this. After integrating this, we continued this year by acquiring Transwitch, the IPs from there in the display area. And we just recently announced that we acquired the USB 3 host, XHCI host from Fresco. And there is more to come, so stay tuned. So what are we doing with these companies, plus the homegrown stuff which we have from here? Meanwhile, we have over 800 engineers worldwide, and here on the 15 design centers, many of them in the US, but also here in the UK, in Poland, in Israel, in India, and in Shanghai. We have these people, these 800 people located. We are among the top IP providers. Meanwhile, we have a year-over-year growth of over 100%, and we are the #1 in verification IP and memory models. This is an overview of the Cadence Design IP as it is today. So the color codes is the blue stuff. This was available before beginning of this year, and the green is what is new, what is recent in this year. For example, on display, that's the portion we received from Transwitch, and also Ethernet PHYs we received from Transwitch. We are working on our own stuff, UFS, Unipro, SoundWire, to enhance the portfolio and all those things where we had holes. This is where we are using the 800 engineers we have to fill the gaps here. So this is either available now or will be available very soon as IP. So you see, from hardly being known as an IP vendor to having this broad portfolio, it was done in the last 3 years. So what advantage do you as a customer have when it really comes to using this huge portfolio of IP? So we think it's about the IP customization. You need to be able to customize the IP towards your needs. It's about how easy is it to integrate the IP into your SoC. The best IP is not useful and worth anything unless you really are easy to massage it into your IP without having to design the IP a second time. So it's about the application focused. I mean, not every customer is in everything. You are focused on your specific design environment, whether it be mobile, whether it be high-speed networking. By the way, where are you in? software business, so are you need to have everything very fast, right? Also, when it comes to teaming up with a company to make sure you are on the same path moving forward, then the company which is providing the IP, so that you have a match there. Let's look at some examples. For example, mobile world. Yes, they also use software there. And what focus do you see in the software world? In the mobile world? You see, you need display controllers, you need peripherals, you need USB outputs, you have MIPI, which is all across the places here. You need control over your memories, and you have a bunch of analog sensors which you have to work on. So all of this IP is required, and rather than going to several third parties, you should better go to one party where you know that these things work together. And here we have, continuing with the example, mobile. That's where we have, if it comes to mobile, yes, we are covering the full MIPI portfolio. Meanwhile, we are focusing on driving low power requirements, because that's the key issue for the mobile people, that the battery will last. And we are investing into the next gen technology by trying to make sure that we even drive the standards, not only follow the standards, but drive the standards. The synergy, what we have available is, for example, the synergy with the Tensilica, the processor guys, is that we have Slimbus, SoundWire, the new standard SoundWire, and I2S, and Tensilica and the hi-fi audio. And if it comes to image, we have the Tensilica image and video processor combined with our CSI, DSI PHYs, the display PHY, and the display outputs like HDMI or EDP. So that all of this works smoothly together. This should just give you a little overview here of what IP our customers usually use, and we make sure, because you get this out of one hand, that it works together seamlessly. In terms of easy integration, so when you plan a chip, when you make the architecture, you need to make sure that all the third-party IP you are acquiring, that this fits together. So you want to configure the IP, and you configure IP, you have, depending on the bus width, depending on the performance, you have either larger or smaller IPs from the same flavor. So we have a system available called chip planning system. So you take the catalog, what type of IP do I need? You enter it into the chip planning system. You choose the functionality, you select the parameters, and you combine this with the foundry libraries which are available. And it looks like a floor planning system, actually, and the outcome is the power, performance, and area estimates. And surprisingly, it's within 10% of the later accuracy. So it's already pretty good for you to make sure that the design architect has a good tool in hand to make sure the IP will not exceed the budget, in particular the budget in performance and area. Another customization example here, if it comes to DDR controllers. So if you can configure this before it gets delivered to you, you can say multiple clients sharing the memory, whether it's a DSP, CPU, or codec, the various bus widths. You can have a configurable local bus interface, whether it's AHB, ooh, that was fast here. The various bus interfaces. You can set priority engines to make the performance as much as you want. You can configure low power. You configure the PHY interfaces depending on what standards you have. And last not least, you can configure which type of external memory you want to control with these things. So we are supporting them. And only once you configure this, you get the IP which is fully customized to your needs, so that you optimize the area on your chip and the performance. Of course, we also have a hardware platform available for you to evaluate the chip, to design to use it as a reference design, and to make sure that you can configure that you interface the rest of your SoC to here. So we have for most of our IP, we have application boards and a PHY daughter board ready for our PHYs, so that you can run the software already on these things, and you can interface it to the rest of your world to make sure that your IP works once it is designed into the chip. As I mentioned before, we have a pretty long history in IP, and also the companies which were acquired, they were leaders in certain technologies. And so it's not coming as a big surprise that, for example, in DDR, we are leading with DDR4. We have just recently announced that we have working silicon and 60 nanometer FinFET back for the DDR4 controller. So it's meanwhile in over 400 designs with over 3,000 configurations which we delivered in this DDR. If it comes to wide I/O, we are the first ones to be silicon proven with 3D packaging. If it comes to flash, we were the first to support ONFI 3 and Toggle 2 modes to support the latest flash technologies available. In PCIe, we just announced the PCIe IP Gen 3 to be available and to be certified and compliant in the market. In terms of Ethernet, we offer all from 10 to 100G, from 10 megabit to 100G. And if it comes to AMS, we have supported over 200 tape outs, and here over 65 serial SerDes designs with over 70 nodes and variations. Our IP is available. Some of the recent achievements, I think I briefly mentioned it already, the DDR4 controller and the PHY are both working. Silicon is back and working. It's in characterization for the 16 nanometer FinFET from TSMC. And this is the first chip available so that you can really make use of the maximum performance of the DDR4 spec, which is 3,200 megabit per second. The other thing which we recently announced is that the PCIe Gen 3 controller and PHY is available on TSMC 28 HPM. It's the most power-efficient solution available. It has 30% less power than standard applications in the market here. And it was certified with PCIe in March, available. Also this available in silicon, proven in silicon. So we started the presentation with showing that we are a subset of EDA, or not a subset, but let's say complementary to EDA. And the whole chip, it needs to fit into the whole design system. And you are all aware that Cadence is offering the design system from front to back, from the idea to manufacturing. And also we in the IP division, we remember that every chip has to come on a board later on. So not only software has to run on it, but it has to come on a board and make sure that it still works there. So let's have a last view here on the packaging and PCB design, how we are supporting it. So we have the end of the chip in mind, and we make sure that we give you modeling availability so that you can have signal integrity modeling and simulation available. So this is part of the design kit which you receive, so that finally at the end of your design stage you can make sure you can give design advice to your customers who are using the chips and put them on their boards to make sure that they will not suffer from signal integrity issues later on. So we provide the guidelines for PCB layout and packaging design. We have IC and PCB co-verification available for you in order to make sure that your chip will work once it is put on the board. So in summary, yes, we are a new type of IP group. We are focused on specific markets and on specific applications. We have a broad portfolio, but the portfolio is not bought and not collected and maintained to have a broad portfolio, but to make sure that whatever design niche you are in, you can get all the IP you require, that you can get it out of one hand. And we are driving the technology standards, whether it's DDR4, what you have seen here, whether it's PCIe 3, whether it's going towards 16 nanometer FinFET and below. That's where we are leading the industry. Meanwhile, we are engineering the next generation technology. And in terms of IP, we have the IP that you need, whether it is in memory and storage, whether it's an interface, whether it's an analog. We have the PHYs and controllers. They are silicon proven, integrated and certified. This is a big advantage if you have controller and PHY out of one hand, where it's gone through standardization, certifications, and integration that it was tested. So in all, this means you can focus on your chip, and you do not have to focus on integrating the third IP, the third-party IP.